So I think it's time to go. And I will kick it off. Hello, everybody. Once again, for those who just joined, it's our 6th digital cafe today. We had a chance to learn from many different speakers at our digital cafes, from Google, Axiom, Zeta Global, WPP, Meta, and many others. And today we have a chance and privilege to host 2 new speakers. Marco Gerick from Mercedes, who is Mercedes Me Manager, and Markus Stauffenberg from Experience One. Linda from Experience One, Managing Director, is also today with us, but Markus will be the main one who will be speaking during the presentation, and later at the Q&A session, I expect that Linda will also join together with us. So later, as usually, I will be presenting a bit longer and more our today's lecturers. But once again, thank you very much to Marco and Markus and Linda for joining us, and hope today lectures and presentation will be interesting for our audience. Before we start, I have to show you this. So I think I had so far 6 different digital cafes that I was preparing with, as I mentioned, different people. But I just want to show you this because this is what Marco and Markus shared with me when they were planning today's session. And I think this really shows how and what customer experience is. Customer experience is so much about precise planning, about thinking, about strategy, about putting the things together, about the helicopter, holistic view on the things. And I think that's why, and I believe this is one of the main reasons why Mercedes and Experience Ones are so good and excellent in providing the customer experience to their customers. So you see how those plannings has been done. So for me, really interesting, to see and learn, how the planning could be done really precisely. Before I will give the word to Markus and Marco, I'll just say a few words about the customer experience and just give kind of intro, basic things, and something which I'm basically also teaching as part of the SSBM program. So let me just take a few minutes of you before we come to our main presentation of today, which is Mercedes Benz Mercedes Me story about the customer experience. There are different definitions of the customer experience, and here is one, so and basically this definition says the customer experience is results of every interaction with the customer and between the customer and the business. And in today's digital age, it could be from like a navigation of the websites or getting to know the product, so this is always experience for the customers, or talking to service or the contact center or the service center, so and many other touch points so that customers might have basically interacting with the brand, with the product, or with a service. Here I put just one slide that I'm usually using where I want to just kind of give the generalistic picture about the customer experience. And it's usually starts with just some kind of planning of the different stages of the macro journeys, so because it's all about the journeys of the customers. And then those journeys are different for different products and services. And you see here in the middle, I just put those usual, like a school kind of definitions, starting from awareness, going into engagement, going into consideration, purchase, retention, and advocacy. And this is basically the base model. Those stages, those macro journeys depends about the type of the products or the services, depending is it a low consideration product or high consideration product. Low consideration product could, for example, be fast mover consumer goods, so, and obviously there are, not too much time of the considering, buying fast mover consumer goods. If you want to buy Coca-Cola, it's usually just happening, but as when you get thirsty, so but such companies are basically spending lots of money and efforts in building the awareness. Compared to that kind of long consideration, companies are, for example, automotive companies, which are going through many of those stages, like in this case, and within those macro journey stages, there are many micro moments, so those are all those touch points, and could be different going through this journey in awareness stage, when, for example, the awareness could be built, for example, through some ads or the video materials, or engagement could be built on the websites through some kind of configurators on different things, so those are all the touch points that the customers will be touching the different brand. For that, in customer experience strategy, many companies are using technology, because today we could basically collect all the data from those different micro moments, touch points, put it in the machine, basically standardized, build a unique profile of the customers, then use the artificial intelligence, which will basically predict what's the next step of the customers, and then use it for the personalized communication. Because this is about the customer experience, relevant communication in real time, a personalized communication as much as possible through the channels which customer is in demand. And this is basically what technology is doing. Customer data platforms, marketing automation tools, CRMs, e-commerce platforms. So this is basically the technology. Also, what you have to take in mind, it's about the people which are also kind of allocated along this journey. From the call centers, the people which are nurturing the leads, making, giving more information about, the certain customers, the salespeople. So all this goes into kind of people agenda. All this together basically build the customer experience, but at the end of the day, it's about the customers. So we need certain tools which are listening to the customers, and we understand the voice of customer. We understand the sentiment of the customer. So that's why there are good vendors which are basically providing social listening tools or business listening, or provide the analytics of the ratings, or ship to the customers in certain stages of the journey service, so that we get this feedback and then improve on our kind of interactions with the customers. So this is in the nutshell, how is the definition of the customer experience in one page. Of course, I mean, we could spend hours and hours in discussing different kind of points here, but I just wanted to be as brief as possible. In the organization, there is always this very good question: who is in charge for the customer experience? And I had the opportunity to be at some of the leading global companies where definitely, there was always discussions. Is this part of marketing? Is that part of this after sales? Is that part of the sales? But in most of the cases, that's a standalone department, which is basically cross-working with the different departments. However, when you will talk to the different departments in the organization, you will see that they have the different view on what customer experience is. So for marketing, it could be that the customer experience, it's delivering relevant content to the right people at the right time. For the sales, it could be, so the customer is pleased with the price. Product, it could be that it's delivering the innovative products, so that which the customers likes, which the customers wants to associate with. And the service, a productive and friendly conversation, which will help the customers solve their problems. So this is how the different departments are basically looking at the customer experience. But at the end of the day, it's about the customer. It's about the customer, and customers does not understand about the departments. They see what they see. It's the brand. So the duty and the task of the customer experience is definitely to harmonize all those aspects which I was talking about, and make one experience, which is kind of aligned strategically, again, through the journey of the customer purchasing journey. So just a few positive examples, so of the good customer experience, and I will name it very quickly for the companies that most of us knows. The first one could be the Netflix. Netflix is basically providing to us recommendations. So 80% of we are watching on Netflix, it comes from the recommendations because they understand. They're collecting those informations from us, as I mentioned before, and using the customer data portals and then recommending what could be in line with our interest. So they're producing the new programs based on the history of the watching, and the ratings. So if some series does not have a good ratings, they will just drop it and it will be not produced anymore. Multi-device, so I'm sure that many of you are watching Netflix on mobile or on tablet or on TV, so whatever. So it gives easy access to the customers. And the quality, I guess no need to say, but it's extremely good and high. So that the people could really enjoy it. Similar is with Amazon. I guess that most of you are buying Amazon, but just to repeat it quickly, great experience, and I think they spend tons of time, producing this experience, user experience. So excellent UX, simple buying process, and I think a comparison of the prices, payment, different options. So everything there, it's just so much planned and configured for the customers to basically have a great experience buying Amazon. Disney, another one, which is basically entertainment industry, so from planning, going to Disneyland and booking and visiting, planning from the app, where you could basically do from home. And when you come to the park, basically you could also use the same app, allocate the attractions, see waiting times, enter all the parks, pay, get your photos there. So many different things which are really making it easier and good for the customers. So what the customer says about the poor customer experience. So 80%, so these are the research survey commissioned by it right now, and Harris Interactive did it. So 89% of them says they moved to another company when the experience was poor. 50% of the customers gives just 1 week to fix it. So all the rest will just move away, and those which it's not fixed, again, it won't be kind of beneficial for the brands. Experience for automotive industry, it's standard that we respond to the customers in 1 hour. So this is a kind of a general KPI. So because if it's not responded, most probably customer will finish somewhere else. So 25% of the customers, after the poor customer experience, they will post negative comments on the social networking sites. So, which is really bad, because the marketing, that's one of the strongest marketing if you have that advocacy from very happy customers. But 79% are companies are ignoring their complaints. The only 1% of the customers feel, based on this research, that their expectations are met, and they have a good experience. So those are some of the figures which I wanted to show you. And on another side, contrary, I want to show you just a few figures about the positive customer experience, which says that 86% of the customers pay more, plus 25% for better customer experience. One of the example was Amazon. I think when I was checking the price, some other vendors, so maybe the prices are lower, but in most of the cases I'm purchasing Amazon because, I have this trust and good experience. So I'm ready, to pay a bit more. And there are many examples like that. So another interesting thing is that the friendly employees. So you see, we speak a lot about the digital and the digital cafe, digitalization, transformation, but still the number one, what makes the consumer fall in love in brand, it's like friendly employees. 55% they say they like easy access, on informations and support. Personalized experience. So this is what I was talking, number 3, 36%. So that matters to the customers. And in the nutshell, so this is the equation which I build here. It's that happy customer, having a great customer experience means higher satisfaction of the customers, means higher loyalty, more advocacy, for your brand or service or product, which increase the profit up for any of the corporation. So this is my 15 minutes, which I did, hopefully not too short, not too fast, not too long. And now we would move to the main part of our today's digital cafe, which is about just stop sharing, which is about the Mercedes story. And today with us, first, we have Marco from Mercedes. So hello, Marco.
Hi all.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag. A very warm welcome from Stuttgart. I have to say good morning, good day, and good evening in order to greet everyone in each time zone. So hello from Stuttgart once again.
Thank you very much, Marco. So basically, I will just say a few words about Marco, as I'm always presenting our speakers, lecturers. So Marco, it's the global manager in for Mercedes Me, and for years he's been shaping the e-commerce strategy of Mercedes-Benz. I think like 15 years. As head of Mercedes Me store, he's also responsible for the web store, apps, in-store, in-car store, paving the way to the global marketplace. But before we start, Marco, which car do you drive? I'm really interested.
So this is a very good question to start into the discussion. What do you think?
I think Mercedes, but what I'm really interested, you spent already some time in Mercedes. You are still very, very young. You started very early in your life. So, so how is sitting in Mercedes today versus, let's say, 15, 20 years? So, where this industry took us? So, what is important in today's car?
Yeah. So. Importance, if you ask, especially the situation, how we work nowadays in such fields as we have it here with connected car, with e-commerce. If I remember the days I started with Daimler or with Mercedes-Benz, it has been changed completely. So the first thing is nowadays it's all about speed, speed, speed. So you have to have the first one, meaning you have to have good ideas. You have to think out of the box. It's not as I know it from the old days where it's very structured and very lean, where you have first a year time to come up with business ideas, then you hand it over to IT, then you hand it over to, and in a couple of years you will see then a result. It changed completely. So it's a complete change. It's speed, speed, speed. It's an integration of work. It's really sort of transformation. We also see it with our offices. If I can bring that one also as a picture to you guys. So in the old days, we had our headquarters where we had a lot of each single offices, each manager and each close the door in order to focus, concentrate on their work. Nowadays, it has completely changed. So it's an open space, it's a desk sharing, and it's really, it's cool. So it's much more communication, but of course, it is really being better than others, speed, new, think out of the box, new ideas, innovations, etc. So this is basically it. How I experience, especially in the last 5 years. Yeah.
But when I sit now in Mercedes, it looks like a space shuttle to me. Mercedes was very conservative before, but now when I see all the screens around and connectivity options, so what could you do with your Mercedes today in terms of connectivity? Could you order some kind of new services through connectivity, because the cars are connected to the central, and how does it work, today?
Yeah, so it's not anymore as we have it in the old days that you say, okay, you have to produce a good car. The car has to look very fine and fancy. You have to provide some good coloring. It's more a focus inside the car in experiences, in entertainment, in being connected with your car. Because that one is being known by the people owning a smartphone. So you are connected nowadays everywhere. And why not in a car? So you bring that expectations if you enter a Mercedes, and that's also the reason why you see a completely new appearance, especially inside in the head unit. In the old days, where we had a very small screens compared nowadays, if we, for example, take our latest product, the Hyper Screen, where you have a huge screens available for the driver and also the person sitting next to the driver in kind of video streaming, music streaming, navigation services, etc. So this is what we see currently, and what we also will see in the future with more and more focus on entertainment, if I can say it under a buzzword. Yeah,
this is really interesting. I remember from, let's say, several years ago, Mercedes was the brand, and many people that were buying Mercedes, it's nothing bad about it, but there were older people. But have you changed the target groups? Is it that more younger people today because of that? Because your experience is definitely new, it's modern. Connectivity, all those things, which you mentioned. So do you see that that shift and that more younger people are buying Mercedes, or you still see that older populations are getting adapted to the technology and buying cars? How is your view on that?
It's both, basically, because as I mentioned before, people are used to a smartphone. So nearly everyone uses a smartphone, and you know all these kind of connectivity from your smartphone and behavior in your family, using WhatsApp and blah 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 blah. So it's not that we have to convince olders in order to you have to use the services, etc. I remember when we started the connectivity in the cars, that was back in the year 2014. We started with our first vehicle, bringing a SIM card into the vehicle in order to come up with small little connected car services. Most known one is the live traffic information as an example. And from that beginning, we said we definitely have to bring that kind of features into our cars. It's not a discussion or a question. If we don't do that, we won't lose our younger customers. So we said we have to do that because this is a precondition, and customers expect us having the connected car service in the cars available. And if you don't offer such services, you are out. And nowadays, I mean, we see it nearly in all manufacturers. These kind of services are known, sort of a basic feature set available. And yeah, there is, as I mentioned before, much more to come towards entertainment, etc.
Okay. So, I mean, I could talk for hours with you, ask 100 questions, but I will leave something also for the participant students and other audiences, to raise the questions. So let's leave some space at the end. But as you would have together the session with Marcus, now I usually am presenting one lecturer, then there is a lecture, then there is a second, and then the second lecture. So, but you will do it together because you prepared the presentation together. So before we start the presentation, so I'll say just a few words. Hello, Marcus, also to you. So how are you?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you for having us. Let me say it's great to be here. Hello to all the listeners around the globe. Customer experience is often talked about as, from the perspective of competitive advantage. So it's really about who has the best customer experience. They win, everybody else loses. But what we sometimes forget is that it's also a great community, worldwide community, where I think there's a lot of win-win when we exchange our experience and our knowledge, because it's such an interesting and engaging topic. So it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us, Marcus. So you will see Marcus have plenty of experience in customer experience with different clients, but it's interesting that he started in design and economics. He have the background in that. And then Marcus moved to the consultancy. He's advisor and coach of different companies. And so what brought you to consultancy and this job, Marcus? Just maybe shortly say a few words about yourself, that people will get to know you before you start your lecture.
Yeah, you see, Damir, in comparison to Marco, I'm quite old.
No, nobody's old here.
So when the internet was invented and came to Germany, at first I was already done with my high school degree and thinking about what kind of education and profession I want to go in. And I was really excited and passionate up until today about the possibilities, the design and build challenge to creating better customer experiences with this technology. And as I moved on in my professional life, I found out, okay, the business side of customer experience is also very important. So it also has to align with the business model and how the business is structured. So I did some economics degrees, because designing a business is also an interesting design and build challenge. And later on, and this is my focus during the last years, I found that in the end, if you do the business right and you do the customer experience right, you still have to take the organization with you, all the people behind delivering this experience you want to create. So basically, the relationships in a big company is also a big design and build challenge. And that's what I'm focusing on today mostly, because I'm, especially the younger teams and the change makers in the organization, it's really they should get all the help they can get to build the future for all of us.
But Marcus, tell me one thing. So you work with different clients. You know, I know that you work with my bank in Germany. Yes. You work with Mercedes. How could you do the customer experience in bank and in the automotive? Shouldn't you be specialized in something, or customer experience? It's about the customers and generalistic, so you could apply certain models at the different industry. How does it work for you? What would you say to potentially new consultancy people which maybe are coming out of our students?
Yeah, so industry expertise is important in customer experience, especially in the details. But I could say it's always worth sharing experience with people from other industries, especially in the CX areas, because as you said in your presentation before, that the customer doesn't care about a lot of things. They have their own perspective, and they don't care so much about industry differences or categories. They care about organizing their personal lives and solving problems and having a good time. And they're picking experiences from whatever company provides the best experience. And also, some industries are really good at some things, and other industries have different CX challenges. For example, Marco at Mercedes, a car is a very complex, high involvement product. You need to do a lot of explanation so people understand it. If you look at a chocolate bar or some candy, it's not a high involvement product. It's more about emotion. So different challenges for that. If you look at financial services, it's not very emotional at all, right? But it's more like the gateway to emotional things you want to do in your life with financial services. So yes, industry expertise pays off, but what also pays off is exchanging experience across industries, because you can always learn something that another industry has more track record or experience. That's my advice.
Thank you very much. So what about, where does it start? Is it start with employees? Is it start with middle management? Is it start, who have to be convinced that the organization start thinking about the customer experience? What is your experience in that? Yes,
so as everything in a big organization, everything that is important should be supported by top management. Otherwise, it will not bring really the change you want to have. But I think in our time, the impulse, the innovative impulse, and the customer centricity, intelligence, so forth, will not come from top management. So the role are changing, I think. So in the past, in a more traditionally managed company, you give objectives down and you get reportings up again on how things are going. And I think in the age of customer centricity, it's more about top management, giving a general request or vision out, getting goals and specific proposals for innovations back, and then be a good supporter, be a good mentor, and give those teams with those innovative ideas the resources, the access, and the support they need to be successful. It's a change of roles, I think, that many organizations are still working on learning, but that comes with customer centricity in my experience.
Excellent. And I guess there is somebody who have to convince the CEO that this is worth to invest and change the organization. Yes. So the guys, the floor is yours. I'm really looking forward to see how would I convince my CEO to start with the customer experience project.
All right. So let's I guess it's start for a little lecture here. I will start sharing the screen. Thank you, Dami, for the introduction, and make the technology work first and then continue talking. I think, does it look good?
All good.
Perfect. All right. So yeah, this is a little bit like a lecture or a training format, but also with some practical insight into a real business world in terms of customer experience innovation. And yeah, so welcome to this little masterclass on how to pitch CX to your CEO. This session is all about business storytelling, and specifically why it's becoming so important for leaders in a customer-centric organizations to pitch innovative CX ideas to top management. That's the thing. So every time I do this masterclass, I include some real-life CX innovation examples, and I'm really happy to have my friend and a journey companion, Marco, here with me, because he's bringing the most important part of this masterclass, which is a practical business case that he is managing at Mercedes with his team, which is called the Mercedes Me App Store, and we will explain what this is shortly. It's really relevant for the tools we're showing today. So obviously, Marco and we are both in the CX business, and probably most of you are also in the CX business, if you want it or not, because so that means welcome to Generation CX, everyone. Again, as I said, I enjoy getting in touch with the community. So customer experience innovation is creating revolution after revolution in the business world. And basically every company in every industry is in some kind of transformation all the time. And so in my last 20 years of professional experience, of course, as Damien mentioned, a lot of things have changed. Technology has changed, obviously. Many companies are much better prepared for customer-centric technology application. They have teams, they have labs, they have departments, and still, and you can ask Marco about that, it's still challenging for many big organizations to bring the most innovative ideas from the idea lab to the customer front, especially during international launches and rollouts in the broad scale. So, and there are many reasons why IT projects fail or innovation projects fail, but one thing that, in my experience, makes those projects challenging still, even after 20 years, is a simple reason, and the simple reason is that business is still mostly about people, right? People working in those organizations, and having to align themselves somehow, especially if they want to go a more customer-centric route and apply this kind of challenge. So 3 hypotheses here, which is kind of the motivation for a lecture like this also. So business transformation needs to start in a way with a mindset transformation. And that means with transforming how people feel and think about change. So if you are working in the field of customer experience, to a certain degree, you will be a change manager, and you have to be prepared for that. Secondly, one of the most valuable skill sets, I believe, will be what I call customer-centric leadership. And that's a certain way of leading teams and organization through CX-driven transformation. And of course, leadership has a lot to do with communication and with creating impact. So a big success factor for that is convincing people to join and support your movement. And this is what our little piece today is about. Wait a second. So, all right, so that's what we want to help you do today. So in our lecture, we have 2 principles, 1 practical tool, and as I mentioned, 1 customer experience business case. And I want to start with this one. It's called the Mercedes Me App Store, Me Store app. And what it does is it helps you explore, book, and instantly activate services in your car, as Marco mentioned in the beginning. And as Marco is here, I don't have to explain it any further. I just will give the word to you, Marco, maybe as a little introduction. Here we go. Can you shortly explain to us why this is an important innovation for Mercedes, and what drives transformation in the automotive industry today?
Thank you, Markus. Yes, I will take over and give a little bit more insight here. So first of all, if we can jump back to the previous slide. Sure. When we started with Connect, as I mentioned, we started as a company in the year 2014. And in these times, we had a strong focus on with all these initiatives in e-commerce and connected car issues on the web, because there was no chance to get into the car because the Lastenheft, the concepts for the cars have been already closed because there is a long time of period ahead. You have to include such issues. And then we said, okay, let's start with the web store. That was then when we launched our initial app in e-commerce in 2017, basically selling a couple of connected car services. The most important ones I already mentioned is the live traffic information as an example. And then we realized, okay, yeah, it's fine. Customers understand, okay, there is connected car service included in that car. And if I buy a brand new car, I will get a license for 1 or 2 years in order to use them. And after this time of period, I have to pay. Again, I have to order a license in order to continuing using this kind of services. That was understood, but we realized with all the customer surveys, customer does not understand why to go into the internet on a web page to prolong that service. So why isn't this possible in the car? By the way, I call the car, this is our real mobile device. And then we came up with all our ideas and started a huge project in 2018 already, where we said, okay, why don't we make use of the smartphone, of an app in context of our product? And I remember these days when I said, okay, when we said, okay, what is being needed in that context? So first of all, there is an app where you can steer functions. I will give you more details in a couple of minutes. But I remember these days when I said, listen, we have to definitely also come up with the e-commerce function and have to bring together in a separate app the services in order to, as it is written here, to make it transparent first. Because if customer is using a app, if he or she connects the car with a Connect account and then downloads the app in order to use the functions, it's so clear and so near to also say, okay, your Mercedes includes the following services, this and that one you already own, but this and that is available for sales. So we sort of push the user to sell the product in order to make use of all the connected car services available for that car given X factory. And I remember these days when we had these discussions with top management where they said that will never happen. No one will accept that. Why should they open an app? And do you really think you will sell a single service via an app? Never, ever. And we had really to convince them that this is part of the story in context with that app family. So nowadays we have in the app family 3 main apps. It's the Mercedes Me app, the major app, if you're to use and steer the functions, the store app as written here, in order to have the transparency to book service and also to see how long the service is running and by when I am able to prolong the license for the service. And there is also a service app where you are able to book a service slot for servicing your car. And under the button line, to finalize here the words on that slide, I'm so happy that we convinced management that they gave us the money, that they gave us the trust to come up with a store app, because nowadays the store app is the most important sales channel for us. Currently focusing on revenue, but also you will see that in a couple of minutes in our journey, in our strategy, in the transformation of the car industry towards electric mobility. So if you just click one slide further, thank you, Markus. I'm quite sure that you have realized via press that our boss, my boss, Ola, announced that by the end of this decade, we will go all electric. That was, by the way, from my perspective, a very important message and a very important signal for the whole company, but also for our customers. Why is it a change for the whole company? Because there is now conditions needed in order to change all these transformations. So it's not only the motorization, where we say we have to focus on electric first with the cars and the car production. It is also all the services around electric mobility. It's the driving the car itself. It's the charging experience. It's the way how we live our lives, and where is then the room for for charging, meaning is there if you're owning a house, so you charge your vehicle at home, but there's also kind of public charging. And of course, coming back to the company, it's also a different way how we service as Mercedes-Benz a car when the car has to be serviced. So is it as we know it, the current periods, is there a difference, etc. Under the bottom line, I'm saying that was a very important message for customers, for us as a company in order of car production, but also bring the whole company and features. And for me here in the store app, all these thinking in electric first and come up with solutions and prepare the company and have tool available for this brand new life cycle, if I can say it like that. If we go then to the next slide, it's basically what I just mentioned, the three issues here. On top, you see the power concepts I'm just talked about. So with focusing on that store app in 2019, we now have the chance to collect experiences with all these app environments, because with app, it's totally different as we have it, for example, with app. So with web channel, because you have a direct customer feedback. You improve as an organization and learn every day by customers using our product. And this is, if you ask me, very important knowledge you have to collect. And that one has to be also part of the new journey of the company towards electric mobility, in order of providing, selling, offering electric services, so to say. Mm-hmm. Next thing, it's the digital connection. So you don't have to start from scratch with all your ideas. You definitely will fail. So as I mentioned during the introduction, nowadays nearly everyone has a smartphone, is used to it, knows how apps function, knows how how the general behavior, the usage of an app is set up. And there is also, out of that knowledge and experience, you expect if you enter an app. This smartphone industry is just for us the development we see in the smartphone industry is for us the front runner, so to say, and you definitely see all these kind of developments as a fast follower in our cars. Meaning, for example, we see nowadays Apple Pay, we see Google Face, we have face recognitions, we have fingerprints that is being used in everyday usage of different apps. And these kind of features we all love, and we really won't miss anymore. And these kinds of functions we definitely have to bring in our thinking when we think and go into the new direction of pure focus of electromobility and providing functions, services around this electrification. And another one, the third one, is the business model. Maybe I can just add a sentence here. So we are about to launch also the subscription, meaning the Abo model for our connected car services. We know that customers want to be more flexible, as we all know it and love it from Netflix and others. And these kind of business models are expected and known. And of course, we will and have to bring in them also in the new world and also in our current sales strategy of the connected car services.
Perfect. So Marco, you already mentioned one feature. I think for the audience would be interesting for you just to give us a few examples of services that can be selected and activated for the car. And I think you have prepared a slide for that here.
Yeah. So let's just give you a short introduction. What is it all about with this connected car services? So we just try to summarize quite simple ones. You don't have to own a Mercedes in order to understand the concept here or the products here. So the first on top on the page, we pointed out 3 services, which I call it's basically the remote functions, meaning you steer features in your car with your smartphone. And there is an example of the remote park assistant, meaning if there is a very tight parking lot and you just say, okay, I will never manage to park in the car here. You can use your smartphone and can park the car via the smartphone. Another example would be especially knowing the hot weekend, very nice summer weather we had in Europe last weekend. So yeah, if you're in nature for a little walk and your car is parked and you're on your way back, you can via your smartphone open, for example, the windows in order to get the car well temperatured, or if you have an accelerating heating installed, you can also start the acceleration heating in order to find the car then well temperized for your back home for your way back home. That is just a couple of ideas and features we have available. And we also want to mention here on the as another part of the slide. So as it has been already mentioned by Damir in the introduction, we started with the web store, and then we came up with the app store, and have of course also an in-car store, the store in the car available. And this is our so-called multi-channel approach, where we say this is the 3 stores. We have one and the same products, same description, same pricing, etc. In all front ends, and we are there where customer wants to be wants to get in contact with us in order to inform themselves about connected car services and buy them. And that is one learning out of our strategy here. So if you want to be successful in this kind of business, you have to offer the store in front ends and let then customers decide via which front end she wants to get in contact with us in order to inform and hopefully also close then the deal. Having said that, I hand back to you, Markus.
Thank you. Maybe just a few information about how long this project is already going and how did it start?
Yeah, so a very good question. Normally, and especially in a huge company as we are for Mercedes-Benz, we have many people involved in projects. A learning of the store app is that it's not that you have to have many people involved in the product. It's rather you have to have the right one installed with the right skills. And when we started in 2019, we started with round about 10 people. It was me and different people involved from different organizations. And nowadays, after 3 years, we are about between 30 and 35 people in the team taking care of this store app. And I'm also very proud that this one is not only an in-house development. You can see that on the bottom of the slide. So it is a combined approach And it's really not different organizations. It's for me one team, and we have the right people from Mercedes-Benz in place, IT and also business unit, as well as Mercedes-Benz IO. That is our internal agency developing digital products. And of course, we have the group Experience One as one of our leading innovation agency in connected car business as well as e-commerce. And all these experts of the three companies sit in one boat, let's say it like that. And our baby is the store app. And this is exactly how it works in order to bring all different knowledges, skills, etc. in. And this is a part of our success here.
Great. Now, as this lecture is called How to Pitch CX to Your CEO, let me ask you as the last point, from a project internal communication perspective, as the leadership person of your innovation team, what were the biggest challenges, especially in the beginning of this project?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, it's basically the issue that you have as a huge company as we are with Mercedes-Benz. So let's give you a little bit more insight how we are structured here internally. So we have business units, we have IT units, we have region as a unit, we have markets as a unit. We have the legal department that is very, very deeply involved in such issues. And it's not only my manager or my boss I had to convince that we definitely have to come up with a store app. So it is a combined approach with all of them. And to tell you the truth, not everyone is very detailed in that issue with connected car services first, but also with online sales, with e-commerce. So some markets, they see it as a competition to physical sales. And there were quite a lot of voices saying, okay, are you really sure we want to go into that direction? And learnings out of that is you have to convince, you have to argue, you have to find the right words, you have to explain it very easily in order and in each one's language in order to have a chance to start the transformation, I called it. So you have to start rethinking, this is the direction the whole community goes. We have to be part of it as basis for further success of the company. And as I also used to use that word at the beginning, it is your baby. So please fight for it, take care, protect it, convince. And this is what I had to do, especially during the first period of 2018-19, when we started all these new ideas and concepts. And then, of course, you need all their support, because without their go, you will fail. And you are not able to get that trust and the money that your ideas will end in a success. So without their support, you can't start. And it's also all about what we can see in top 3, stories telling. So say it in clear words, convince them, also bring examples from other industries, very lean, very simple, and step by step with a lot of communications, tons of meetings with lunch dates, etc. Is being needed in order then to convince. And I'm really very, very happy at the end of the day. It worked. So of course you can also fail, but in our project here, it was definitely the right decision to do so. I'm very happy that I could convince all of them. By the way, very good relationships also were brought up during these hard discussions. And it's really also now getting each other or knowing each other, trust. And that's really, nice to see how we really improved in this area here with the store app.
Perfect. Now that brings us perfectly to the topic of the tool and insight part. because also in my experience, these are typical challenges for going all customer-centric in large organizations. And when I was younger, I believed you start building a great product that is very innovative, and the success story will write itself afterwards. But that's not the truth. You have to build your success story right at the start, so you can deal with complexity on a communication level. If you cannot deal with complexity on a communication level, you will not be able to deal with complexity on an implementation level, and also to get all the support you need throughout the organization to make your initiative successful. So that's a perfect starting point. So let's dive into 2 principles and 1 practical tool, all based on these practical examples. And I will, usually this format is quite a bit longer than this. We've had a very engaged discussion in the beginning. I will try to go through it a little lean. And of course, we will have a Q&A in the end, and you can contact us for some more questions afterwards. So the first principle I want to share with you is the answer to this question. How do you make your CEO understand CX? Because customer experience is really a very broad and pervasive topic. You can talk about KPIs, you can talk about customer segments. There's many ways you can talk about CX. And the challenge usually is there's, let's be honest, usually in daily life, the relationship between the CEO and the real customer is a little bit complicated because they don't see each other that much. So there may be exceptions. I always make this joke at this point, and I respect that, but usually there is a big gap in daily job description between the CEO and the customer. And this gap is filled with a lot of complexity. There are structures, hierarchies, a lot of people, and usually many definitions of what customer experience actually means. So in your communication and in your pitch, you have to find a way to explain CX in a way that is very clear and simple and works on all of these levels for realization. And what I usually recommend is some variation of this. This is the best way, I believe, is doing it. To define CX about by saying CX is about enabling people to do things in a new and better way. And that sounds a little bit generic, but I can prove it to you right now. If you look at some of the bigger customer experience disruptions of the last years, you can explain them like this. People like to make bank transfers of money. And if there's a new and better way of doing it, they choose this way, and the old way of doing the same thing becomes a little bit less important. People like to meet friends, to do some exercise, but they may not need the gym necessarily if there are other ways and better ways and newer ways to do the same things. And last example, people like to book rooms for their vacation or business trips, but if there's a new and better way, old way, less important. So as you can see, customer experience, talking about customer experience is not necessarily about category or industry, it's about this. And don't get me wrong, managing CX in a big organization is very complex, but communication shouldn't be. So keep this first principle in mind. We will use it later in this masterclass. So the next question and the next principle, understanding CX is one thing if you've succeeded with this. So how do you make your CEO or the management in general support your initiative? And usually, if you're in this business for quite some time, you have a feeling of typical reasons why your project cannot be supported. So these are the typical barriers and arguments, maybe the not sufficient budget, the case is not there, data protection laws. The one at the bottom is one of my favorite excuses. But in my experience, what those people are really saying to you are just 3 reasons that you do need to convince them about. The first reason is what you're trying to do doesn't sound very important, because we all know there's always budget and time and resources for the really important stuff. So you have to convince them that what you're trying to do with your CX innovation is really important. The second point is it doesn't sound very new and cool and interesting. So people are just human beings. Even the CEO is a human being. Everybody wants to be inspired by their work on some interesting project, want to talk about what they're working on with their friends and families. So especially CEO, they want to know that they are supporting something cool and interesting that makes them look cool and interesting as well. So, and the last point, of course, is the killer argument. It's just, it cannot be done. So people from the legal department are very good at this, but there are so many examples like the one-click order button, as we mentioned Amazon before. This one-click order button in Germany was officially not possible for legal reasons until Amazon just did it, and the whole e-commerce scene was very surprised. So you should be prepared that there are people who tell you that things are just not feasible. So you have to address this point and have to create confidence that it's realistic what you're trying to build. So basically, that's the principle number 2 in a nutshell. So your pitch has 3 jobs basically, and that is make your CX innovation look important, cool and interesting, and also show that it can be done. And if you consider these 3 goals of your initial innovation communication, you're on a good way to prepare a good pitch. So now, as promised, let's get a little bit more practical. So you're consider these principles. Now you want to prepare the first baseline of your CEO pitch for your innovative initiative. For this, we've already introduced the practical example that Marco brought. And we'll look at this case. Now we've understood what it does and the background and the challenges of it. Let's look at how we could build a good baseline strategic pitch to convince management to support this kind of project. And so here's it again. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to guide you through this tool. I call it the CX Pitch Canvas. It has basically a storytelling, a building guideline in 5 steps. And I will guide you through the 5 steps real quick and show you what for Marco's project could be the answer here, so you understand it more on a practical level as well. And let's go through those things. So the first question you want to answer is, what is the big change of the game? So it's, of course, when I say game, I mean a business game, but to give you a metaphor, if the old game is outdoor soccer and now the new game is indoor soccer, yeah, that's a little bit of change, but basically it's the same game. To make your pitch more impactful, you want to show that there's a big change going on, like going from soccer to tennis with really new game, new rules, something you have to prepare your organization for. And what you do is you go ahead, you think about changes that are relevant for your industry. It's usually not that hard. Small changes are fine, but for the impact of your pitch, a big change, a completely new game that's coming on the horizon is much better for your pitch. And you can tell if it's a good choice if you see that the change you're addressing is undeniable. It means everybody can see it's coming, it's relevant to your industry, of course, and it's inevitable, meaning not one company alone can avoid this kind of change. The only thing all the players can do is to react to the change and prepare for this change in a competitive way. So let's look at our example. So in this case, a good short strategic answer would be, there's 2 big changes in the game. It's the one is the new mobility game, as Marco outlined. So basically what it means is the experience people have in their car will be much more driven by software than by hardware in the future. And also, as a second point, which is maybe even more important, this is where everybody agrees in the automotive industry. This is where the money will be. It will not be in building and selling hardware. It will be by providing and selling services. This is where a lot of growth, a lot of profitability will come from in the future. So this could be the background of change, the shift in this scenario, to explain to management, this is why we have to go into this and build a solution like the Mi Store app from Mercedes. So here you can see it a little bigger. just exemplary thing. Think of it like a workshop canvas where you and your team can brainstorm and outline your strategic narrative for the innovation project you want to pitch to your CEO. Now, let's move on to the second one, the fate. The second question is also very interesting. What does it mean for the players? Because usually, if there's a big change on the horizon, not all the players are getting nervous. Some of them are just looking at it and say, well, things will always be okay. So, of course, in your pitch, in my experience, the mindset of some CEOs can also be, yes, might be true, this change is coming. Maybe it's going to be about services in the future in the automotive industry, but we will still be fine. So you have to change that. You have to really clarify that there will be consequences of this change you are describing, and that there will be old players and new players, and there will be winners and losers, and there will be some existential threats to your company and product lines, but maybe also some great opportunities here. And an example you could give for our example could be this. This would how I would put it. So if car makers don't keep up with the expectations for example, in-car experience, there's opportunity for other players like external devices or Spotify device here that you can just put in your car. So other players can move in and steal part of the in-car experience via iPhone or app if you don't keep up with the in-car experience and the digital experience yourself as a car maker. And the second reason that makes a difference between winners and losers in the future is that the latest studies on consumer and buying behavior in the car industry shows that the younger customers, they will make connectivity a purchase decision. This was just a nice to have thing in the past. The hardware was the most important thing and connectivity was a nice to have. Now it's becoming a must have. That means that car brands that cannot offer the latest and best level of connectivity in their cars will be left behind and not chosen by the car buyers anymore. So that's a second reason why we have to move into this area and start innovating in this area. So, and now to the main part, the third part, the new CX. Now, here comes the pitch for what you want to do. And my recommendation here is to use this. And I'm not suggesting that you start singing a song in your CEO pitch. If you're a good singer, you can try. But what I suggest is you use the word imagine a lot. Because if you want to explain your vision from a customer's perspective, you have to start using images of the customer experiencing the new thing. So you build sentences with that could go like this: imagine our customers can do something in a new and better way. Remember the first principle, so as a structure. And then you go ahead and think about what your innovation is and how you really explain it in a more specific way. For example, 10 times faster than in the past, or without leaving the home, or in a much more convenient way, depending on what your innovation is. But use images that start with the customer, because yeah, you can use KPIs, success projections, market share, and arguments like this later on in your pitch. But the most striking thing should be an image of customers in the future using your new product or services in a much better way than in the past. And you can tell if your part is good at this point of the pitch, if it helps putting a picture in your head or in the head of the CEO. If this picture is about real people, not numbers, not pie charts, not statistics, but real people. And the best proof that you're doing a good job here is, can you see that your CEO is actually stealing your articulation of the product vision and using it in the next big interview for themselves, if it was their idea? Because then you have managed to bring down the core idea in an elevator pitch that is so concise, so clear, so simple that even CEOs can use it in their own communication, and everybody understands why this is a big deal, why this is a big step forward for the customer experience. So in our example, we all know what the solution does. This is one way to explain it in the elevator pitch version. imagine customers can choose their car experience in the same way they can choose their smartphone experience by using an app store to pick, download, and instantly enjoy a new car experience. So the same way we can customize our smartphone experience in the future or even today, it will be just as easy or even go further than that in our car experience, just using digital service me-store processes to change and customize my car experience. And if you have nailed down the big idea in some simple sentences like this, of course, you can go ahead and then start visual storytelling. You can, build a prototype, do a little movie or a click dummy. That's usually something you can do, but we really recommend doing the elevator pitch first, because at the coffee table, at home, at the next press conference, not everywhere is an opportunity to show big films. It also has to work in simple language so it can spread around and become viral in the organization and everybody talks about it, right? So, and next thing, and I really hurry up now, number 4, also very important, new powers. The question here is, in order to do this innovation, what abilities do we have to master as an organization? And as you can tell from Marco's story, and here's another example here from Bosch, the latest generation of Bosch power tools, and there's an app coming with it with the latest generation. So yeah, it looks cool. It's a very modern product, but you can already assume by looking at this picture, there's a lot of new change going on to make this kind of product experience possible, right? What does it mean for managing all the data? You need to have digital interfaces suddenly. You need to have new marketing and especially support processes now. People are calling Bosch because they have forgotten the password to use the drill driver, right? That didn't happen in the past. So you have to prepare for, on many levels in many projects, that there are prerequisites and requirements to make this kind of CX vision fly, that really mean big change management in the organization. So in a nutshell, go ahead at this point and think about what kind of new powers and abilities need to be built up over time to make this kind of CX, this time of customer experience possible. Is this maybe some new form of training for the people in the company, the frontline people? Has it something to do with how we process and work with data? Is it a new form of UX excellence, going from steel and metal design to interface design? Is it a new way of selling? Is it a new strategies for partnership? Even new business models that come with it? Usually, the more spectacular the CX innovation is, the bigger the runway for some capabilities that are needed for this experience that are not yet built up in the companies. And my suggestion is, be honest about that, but make it sound positive. So don't make your pitch sound too easy to accomplish, because you will need the support from the CEO and the management, so they help you. It doesn't bring you any advantage to pretend like it's easy peasy and cheap. If you already can make the assumptions, there will be some building up, some investments necessary over long term. Show them. It will make you more credible in your pitch. So make it sound positive. Don't talk about obstacles. Talk about enablers. Don't talk about so much about efforts, costs, and risks, which is usually the negative framing. Talk about, yes, there will be costs, there will be some investments, but basically these are new powers, long-term powers that help us win the new game that we explained earlier in the pitch. So I absolutely recommend you to leave that in. All right, so moving on to the last part. Here, just a few things that Marco already explained very well, that things that go along to be successful in the connected car services business. Of course, you have to think about cars more like their computers and make software drive increasingly the car experience. Of course, the in-car customer experience must be just as great, for example, in the screen design and interaction design, like people are used to from their latest version of mobile phones. And you have to do a lot of channel change management, basically pretending it's like a new product line, building up new capabilities in throughout the entire customer lifecycle, from marketing, sales, product management to support and CRM. All right, so those are all long-term important strategic drivers of big success. So, and the last question, of course, that you need to answer in a good pitch is you have to answer the evidence question. Why believe you can do it? And this can be a hard thing to do because, especially in the beginning, you don't have perfect KPI reports where it shows that you're totally profitable, that your project will fly. But still, you have to create some evidence early on. So at this point, just a quick story here that I like to tell. In an automotive project many years ago, we had an idea for a nice app in terms of driver customer experience. And the idea was to enable people to find and reserve free parking slots in the city, so open air parking slots. So, and we thought it's a nice idea, we wanted to test this. So we talked to the city government and we said, hey, we want to have 10, let's say 10 parking slots on the streets, and we want to use them to reserve them for our test customers so we can see if they want the service. So we built a little app for that. And that was all nice and fair so far, but we had one problem we could not solve in this early test and experiment phase of the project. And the main problem was, how will the app know if a parking slot is still available? And how can we stop other drivers who are not our customers to just take the free parking slot? How can we prevent that? And we thought about all kinds of technology, like RFID sensors, automatic barriers that can go up and down, and camera systems. But at this time, early stage project, we did not have the budget or team or resources for any of that technology. But one thing we did have at the time, and that was we had a lot of interns. Yeah, German word is Praktikanten. So those are those young people with very little salary who work basically as their first work experience in the company. So so our first solution for the technology challenge was this. Yeah, we didn't have the technology, so we had kind of a human stand-in solution to replace the sensor technology and to tell us is the parking place still free. And also to tell other drivers who were not our test customers, no, you cannot park here. So that was our first practical hack solution at this point. And this goes with a message here, because if you're early in the project, of course, if somebody asks you, can you deliver this? Why believe you can do it? The best answer is, of course, I already did it, and here are my testimonials, and they can all tell you that I already did it. But if you don't have that, then I recommend one experiment is enough, and that should be the proof of the customer hypothesis. Be creative with that. If the technology is not feasible yet, then just fake the technology with, you know, just let people do the processes, work with pen and paper, but present real customers. Because for your CEO, and that's my experience, 10 paying customers are much better evidence than 100 features that you may have already developed in your prototype, because that shows that there's acceptance there, that there's value for real people out there, and this is the much better evidence in the beginning than some working solution that you have invested in without knowing will there ever be a customer wanting that. And to come back to our example, Marco, you are the best person to give us a short summary for your project, the Mercedes Me App Store. What worked as evidence in your pitch in the past to convince management that this is something they should invest in, that they should support down the road?
Is there the next slide? Thank you. So thank you for your introduction here, Marcus. Coming back to the store app, I mentioned it before I hand it over to Markus. So at the end of the day, it was really the right decision, and to fight for the baby and to also bring that alive. And what to tell you, see the figures. So we are really very proud seeing the customer rating, and that is what Markus also told us. So at the beginning, you come up with an idea. You keep it as simple as possible, as I mentioned, with all the experiences people have already by using apps every day. So don't come up with completely new processes. And then, of course, as we have it also with the store app, you have to be, you have to focus on your product specifics. In our context is the connected car services. So how is this being understood that you can buy them combined with the known and learned e-commerce functions? I talked about Apple Pay, etc. Yeah, and then you see the result here. So you get a very clear result from customers. I'm happy to see that figures around the world. And on the other hand, focusing on the right-hand side, it's also very important listening to the input. So it's good to receive positive feedback, fine, but it's even better to receive improvements. So it's free of charge. Customers give you a rating, so pick it, take it, please. And take it for your product development itself, meaning we are also receiving a lot of questions of different payment methods, of different suggestions how we could improve our checkout process. Of course, we have tons of customer surveys we also do, because we want to always be the ones ahead and leading in that area, so to say. But here on the right hand side, you see a product feedback. So it's the offering itself. And believe it or not, our management responsible for KPIs, especially business cases, how do we sell products, etc. They need this kind of feedback where the customer says, why the hell do I have to pay another, here it's 70, I paid a car for 7K in UK. Why do I have to pay on top for connected car services? So this gives an indication. Is the customer willing to accept a new business concept? Do we have to be careful here in our strategies when we come up with new concepts in that direction? Under the button line, it's free of charge feedback. Take it for your daily improvement of the app as a project manager or responsible for an app. But also take these kind of hints, hand it in management discussions in my context, in order to give a real mirror, a feedback, and also based on that feedback, rethink about strategics and new directions of business. Very, very, very important. And finally, we will give you also a couple of insights concerning figures here. So as I mentioned, we went live with the store app in March 2020, basically in core European markets. And we are currently about rolling out the store app also to markets outside Europe. So we launched the app 3 weeks ago in Japan and Korea. We are very, very proud of that. Continue our journey in Malaysia, India, etc. So it's really a product that is being used globally nowadays in 34 markets. You see the rating here. And as I mentioned before, I can show you figures, but it's our #1 sales channel. And if you just take a closer look on top, so we started the journey with the store app already in 2020, and already after 2 years, this channel is our most important sales channel. And that gives us again, and me especially, the feedback. It was every second I fight it and I convinced and coupled. Seeing these figures and that results, that makes me really happy for the time being. But don't forget also in our future strategies of the company, we talked about electric mobility, etc. knowing all these figures and success, that one gives us also indications how to come up with the app as a sales channel, also in our new strategy focusing on electric only. Having said that, I hand back again to you, Marcus.
Perfect. No, really, I'm really also very happy knowing this project from the very beginning. Now, really, it is a success story looking back, and it's of course always interesting to see that not every step on the way was that easy, and there are some challenges usually to be expected, and to see that that works out in the end is always a great thing. So with this, Marco, thank you very much. We can actually wrap up our session here. So if you imagine this canvas was kind of a big workshop canvas with your team, we can add the last missing piece here and summarize in this example what the best evidence is we can show for our entire story. And then, as I said, this could be a team workshop. The entire team, interdisciplinary people, work together to find really the best, most compact and simple story baseline that now you can put and start and go ahead and put into PowerPoint slides or other media. But we really recommend bring down the elevator pitch first with a good structure, answer the most important question, and you will have a good baseline that will help you not only in one pitch meeting, but down the road over many months and years during your project, if you can tell a simple story for what the background is, why you're doing it, and what it's all about. And also what we learn is that, especially in the younger people coming from the universities now, they really like this exercise. They're doing it during their education already. And my personal opinion is this is part of the future of leadership, to be able to communicate effectively about innovative, customer-centric things that are not there yet. And you need to find some new and customer-centric ways of communicating and leading people that are work on top of the established communication structures you have in the company, if you want to move forward fast and stay innovative in any industry. So that's our experience. And with this, thank you very much for your attention. This is just a wrap up. We shared 2 principles today, 1 practical tool, and all based on a real life business example from Mercedes presented by Marco. And with this, thank you very much from the both of us. And I think we may have a little bit of time for some question and answers. And otherwise, thank you very much. It was a big honor and great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So I'll step in. I mean, let's just spend another 5 minutes, not more. I think it was a really interesting presentation and didn't want to stop it. And I see that the majority of the people are still with us. So maybe, Marcus, if you could push the button just that we see ourselves, just stop the presentation. So I tried to summarize the questions, and there are some questions about IoT, autonomous driving. So maybe, Marco, a few words about autonomous. Where is Mercedes? I guess doing quite well. I have seen that Stuttgart permits the testing in cities. So how is it going with Mercedes? And I'm not surprised it's a Stuttgart.
Yeah, very good question. This is, by the way, the other strategic issue next to the electronic mobility or the electric only. So you might have written it in newspapers that we already allowed in couples of countries to use the autonomic driving for the brand new baby, the S-Class. But I have to tell you that we are working also on autonomic driving, bringing that around the world, and also on offer concepts how to experience autonomic driving. So just offering that one to give you a little piece or idea. If you are if you plan a business meeting, for example, in Berlin, and you use a car, we realize, okay, there is the motorway, and the motorway allows autonomic driving. So we will proactively with the car push that to you, and we bring that idea saying, I am able as a car, so why don't you try it? And let's try for that one drive. and then afterwards try to convince you while using that one that this is exactly the technology you need in order to do autonomic driving on all your further drives. So there is quite a lot around the curve. We will see that one in 2024 in many markets, and we start first pilots already in 23. So this is what we are working on, again with the whole approach, the technology in the cars, but also the features around using again the app and the just introduced approach. Yeah, so very good question.
I guess we don't have to go too much details in IoT, because IoT, it's like enabler of all this, sensors are all over, for navigations, for maneuvering through the city, cars communicate with the cloud and, all those things. So I guess you answered that. So thank you very much for that. In terms of, one question was about the research which been used for the C-suite when the change is needed. And the second question was pretty similar, about customer insight sessions before decision made. You both answered those questions, so especially I like, Markus, when you mentioned the things, it's better to have like 10 voice of the customers telling you something and go with that to the CEO than, I don't know, whatever, 25 different features, that's what the CEO likes to see, that's what my customer likes, and I'm going to go this direction, because just a 1-2 sentence, comment maybe on research and service, in the phase of preparation for the decision making. Markus?
Yeah, and I think you summarized it quite well. So I mean, it really is. Usually, you can do. There are some standardized and established ways to get an idea in terms of market research. For example, FMCG industries is much more accustomed to regular customer research and market research initiatives than, for example, car makers. But when it goes innovative, you're coming to the limit of getting good answers to things that people don't know. So it's much easier to have a small sample, maybe even, for example, the Car2Go initiative by Daimler. So the mobility as a service, the first things, they were started as a little pilot in, I think, Marco, I believe in Ulm was the first pilot. And they didn't do market research or ask people, how would you use something like that? And they give their answer on paper. They just put some cars on the streets. And if people understood it and used it, they gained some experience there. That was really data heavy in the beginning. And they were working, putting like 10 cars on the street at the daytime. And then at the nighttime, they were fixing the software and repainting the cars and really working in a more experimental level. So when you go more innovative and things that more new categories of services or products, you better show the people the real thing and look at their reaction, right? So that's really advice. And small samples can be a good impulse already, because my experience, if there's 10 studies out there about something, you're probably not a first mover anymore. If you can read all these studies, right? And that topic might be around for quite some time. Yeah, but it really depends on the project and the industry, what the best and most lean and insightful way is to get real and authentic customer feedback on what you're trying to give them.
Okay, just a few last sentence, Markus, and then I will close the cafe for today. You want to say just goodbye to the people, and so please take your time now.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. As I said, I think those sessions like this, like the Digital Cafe that you are managing, Damir, always of great value. I like the informal way of exchanging experiences, like to join for learning myself a lot. And thanks again for your patience. We took a little bit more time than originally planned, even though we had a nice painting of our master plan.
Didn't work my plan. Didn't work.
Yeah, but that's what live sessions are all about. Otherwise, you can watch a video on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So that's a nice thing about coming live together. And thank you for your questions, and hope to see you again in the next session. Would be happy.
Thanks, Markus. Marco.
Yeah, also big thank you from my side. So really a pleasure to bring in a bit more insights from automotive industry, from Mercedes-Benz. And I really do hope that the information was interesting for you, helpful for all your further projects and for your studies. So also pleasure from my side, and thank you very much for having me here and giving me the chance to introduce the Mercedes-Me Store app. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you for preparation, for great presentations. I think it was so interesting that I couldn't stop it. Usually I would be cutting the things, but I think the story was delivered on the proper way. It was a bit longer story once again about that, but I guess you enjoyed because most of the people stayed with us till the end. So I wish you all the best. I wish you a great summer. Summer starts now, and hopefully we talk to each other and see each other later on in some other stage. So thank you very much, and have a good morning, good evening, and a good day. Bye to all.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.